After testing dozens of vibe coding platforms over the last 2 years, here are my favorites for 2026. But I'm not just going to list them. You're going to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each one and exactly what use cases each one is best for. And later, I'll reveal which IDE the top AI builders are switching to, plus when and if you should make that jump yourself. We're going to start with one that's a little bit less well known. It's called Mocha. So this is an all-in-one platform, and I'm going to start with some of my favorite all-in-one platforms and then talk about some different types of vibe coding platforms later on. When I say all-in-one, that means it has the database and user authentication built in. So you don't have to worry about connecting a database. You don't have to worry about setting up anything else. It all works right out of the box. Mocha is a Y Combinator backed company, and it was the #1 product hunt product of the day. And I think Mocha is best for building mini apps to solve problems in your life or inside of your business. So it's not meant to build massive apps that thousands of users are going to use. I think it's meant to build apps like a CRM or like an app for your sports team or an app for your local community or an app to help manage your team's tasks inside your own business, customized to your specific use cases. Or let's say you are a photographer and you want to build an app to manage that business. I think that it's really, really great for these personal apps that you can create. It's all in one, and I definitely recommend checking it out, Mocha. The next one I recommend for 2026 is Lovable. Lovable was one of the first vibe coding platforms. It started out not as an all-in-one platform. You had to connect a database separately through Supabase. Now it has a native connection to Supabase, so it is all-in-one. And I think they've continued to improve their product, which I really like. In the testing that I've done with Lovable more recently, I've been really impressed by the improvements that they've made to their product over time. So I definitely do think you should check out Lovable. The next vibe coding platform that's all-in-one that you should check out is Base 44. So Base 44 also has a full backend built in automatically. What's nice about Base 44 is it doesn't use Supabase, and this is similar with Mocha. Mocha doesn't use Supabase either, the way that Lovable does. So even though Lovable all-in-one, they're still using Supabase as the backend. Base 44 and Mocha has built their backend integrated into their platform really tightly. So there's pros and cons to that. One is you can't easily export your database and use it separately with a different vibe coding app. You're a little bit more locked in, but that also means that it might work a little bit better out of the box because it's just so tightly integrated into the platform. Something that's a little bit different about Base 44 that I think is really cool are the connectors. So you can add connectors directly to your Base 44 app. So they make it really easy to add things, for example, like OpenAI integrations directly in, or any of these integrations that you see here, including Slack, Google Calendar, Notion. All of these can be integrated in one click into your Base 44 app. So that's something that sets it apart a little bit compared to other tools that I've seen. The next all-in-one platform is Manus. Now, you might have heard of Manus as more of an AI agentic platform, but what they've released more recently is the ability to actually develop apps. And with Manus, it can develop an app, it can have a full backend database, it can have user authentication. And then what's cool is because it's also an agent platform, you can build agents that interact with your app as well. And it has a ton of connections and skills that you can include in the building of the app. So that's something that makes Manus a little bit different is, yes, it is an app development platform, but it also has the ability to be more of an agent to complete business tasks for you as well. So if you're looking for an all-in-one solution that can build apps with a backend database and user authentication, but also want the same platform to be more of an agentic AI, I think of it almost as like an AI personal assistant that can do a lot of additional work for you, then Manus would be a great tool for you to check out. There's 2 more all-in-one platforms that I want to show you for 2026, and then we're going to jump into IDEs, and that's going to be some more complicated, powerful vibe coding platforms. And then finally, we're going to touch on some prototyping platforms after that. So Rourke is a native mobile app vibe coding platform. What that means is it builds apps for you that can be put onto the Apple App Store or the Android Play Store. And it also is full stack. It's all in one. There's a backend database, user authentication. It helps you do all of that together. So that's what separates Rourke from the other platforms. So hopefully as you're going through these different platforms and learning about them, you're kind of understanding some of the differences and maybe are able to then narrow down to like a couple that you want to try out for yourself. And that's what I recommend is picking a few of these that you want to try out. They almost all have free trials or a pretty cheap first month to try it out. and then go with the one that you feel most comfortable with. The last all-in-one platform I'm going to talk about is Emergent. Now, Emergent is really cool in that it is all-in-one, but it also is a little bit more powerful in that it can be more of an agentic platform. It kind of is in the middle of these categories of the all-in-one and then the IDEs, which we're going to get to next. So Emergent can build full stack apps. It can host them. It can have agents building your apps, multiple agents at a time working on your app. It can have a backend database and user authentication. It can also convert your mobile app to native mobile apps that can be uploaded to the App Store, like I talked about before. It's not purpose-built for that the way that Rourke is, but it does have that capability. So it's a little bit more of an all-in-one platform in that way. And you also own all the code. You can export everything, so you're not locked into Emergent as well. Emergent, I found the agents to be really powerful, and like you put in one message and then it works for like 5 or 10 minutes and you get out a really nice result. So Emergent would be one that I would recommend checking out as well. So now we're going to talk about IDEs. IDEs are basically coding platforms that give you more power over exactly what's happening. It's meant for someone who's a little bit more technical, but it's very possible for anyone to learn, because while it is for people who are more technical compared to vibe coding platforms, if you do have that interest in learning a little bit about how apps work and about how code editors work, it is definitely possible to use one of these tools. So we also have courses that you can check out on nocode.mba to help you learn how to build a SaaS with tools starting with Lovable, going all the way up to Cursor. So it's definitely possible. So I'm going to go through some of these that you should definitely be using in 2026. So the first one is Cursor. So Cursor, there's a few benefits to this. One is you can use any model you want. You're not tied into Cloud Code or Codex from OpenAI, for example. I'm going to talk about some of their platforms in a minute, but you have the ability to choose any coding agent that you want. It also is quite agentic in the way that it works, and they're model agnostic. They do have their own model, but they also integrate with any model that you want. They have the ability here, you can even see it right here in this little preview, is they have a cool way to preview your app and actually make edits directly, almost in a no-code way. So it's kind of starting to bridge the gap more towards Lovable, while tools like Lovable are trying to push more towards Cursor, which is kind of funny. Like, these tools are all trying to capture as much of the audience addressable market as possible. So you do have the ability to do that as well. But then there's agentic modes here where basically, you just tell the agent what you want to do. This is going to look really familiar to tools like Lovable. And this is what I was talking about before, where yes, it is an IDE, but it does have this similar chat on the left side, preview on the right side that you're going to have. Otherwise, you just have to understand a little bit more about how like GitHub works, how everything works together a little bit more. It also doesn't have an integrated backend. That's a huge thing with all of these IDEs. None of these that I'm going to talk about next have that integrated backend and user authentication. So you're going to have to connect to something like Supabase or Firebase. It's definitely possible to do. You can literally even just ask the agent how to do it, and it can do that. But it is not built in all in one. So if you're a less technical person, then the previous batch is going to probably be more of what you're looking for. So this tab feature, this is how Cursor like started, where coders would go in and actually use tab to like autocomplete. And this was like the first version of AI coding with things like Copilot. But now I would say this is probably less used even by developers, but now developers are using Claude Code, for example, and having it and then reviewing the code. But this is still an option that is supported by Cursor as well. And that's something that's nice about Cursor, is you can go into the code, and especially if you are a developer, go in and actually see all the code, edit it directly, and have full access. You're also not locked into Cursor at all. Your code will be on your local machine or GitHub, and then you can, take that code wherever you want to go. The next IDE that I'm going to talk about is Google Anti-gravity. This is very similar to Cursor in a lot of ways. It's Google's response to it. Something interesting about Anti-gravity is that Google hired the Windsurf executives in a $2.4 billion deal back in July of 2025. So Windsurf was the main Cursor competitor, and it's very similar to Cursor. It was very similar to Cursor. And that is the team who built Google Anti-gravity. So It's very similar, as I mentioned, to Cursor. It is an IDE where you can have agents building and writing code inside of the IDE. And because it's Google, it has native integrations into Google's AI models. One benefit of trying out Google Anti-gravity right now is that if you have a Google One plan, which I think is $20 a month, I think right now you can get more coding tokens for the same price that you'd be paying on Cursor. So it might be a better value right now just with deals that they're running on Google Anti-gravity. Now that can change anytime, but something that you should be aware of and one of the benefits. But just know that Anti-gravity is like Cursor, but Google's version of it. Next, we have Codex. So this is a little bit different in a few different ways. This is ChatGPT's version of its coding app. Now, it is a little bit like Cursor in that you have agents that are going to write code for you. You can view the code changes. It's a little bit more almost like a Lovable type tool, where on the left you have your threads, your chats, and then you have a chat with the editor who's writing the code. But you don't have a preview mode the way you do with tools like Lovable. You still have to be a little bit more technical to know how to set all that up. You have to bring your own backend. So Codex is a little bit more like the Claude Code response. So Anthropic has Claude Code, which is a coding agent that you kind of just tell it what it wants. It's going to go in and make changes. Codex is ChatGPT's version of that. They just released a Mac app, like literally just this past week, that allows you to have this interface. Beforehand, you would have to use the terminal to use Codex. So now there's an app that you can use it as well. And then you have Claude Code from Anthropic, which is the competitor to Codex. So you can use Claude Code in your terminal, or in the Claude app, there's a code tab where you can use Claude Code and ask it to build. This again is going to be for people who are a little bit more technical. I still recommend learning and testing it out. And what's really cool about tools like Claude Code and Codex is that because they are so agentic, if you are confused about anything at any time about how to use it, you can just ask it and then it will tell you how to use your computer to actually get the most out of it. So Claude Code and Codex, they're not full IDEs the way that Cursor and Anti-gravity are, but they're also not really like an all-in-one platform like Lovable Base 44, for example. So it's kind of a different thing. Developers are using these tools a lot lately because they're so good at writing code. And Claude Code and Codex are considered right now the state-of-the-art coding agents. So now that we've covered all-in-one app builders and we've covered IDEs and coding agents, I'm going to talk about some prototyping tools that use AI that you should know about as well for 2026. The first one is Figma Make. You're probably familiar with Figma, which is a design tool, but Figma Make is their AI version of Figma. But it's not exactly like Figma. You type out what you want, and it's more like an all-in-one platform where it is going to have the chat on the left side. It's going to have the preview on the right side. But what's nice about Figma Make is it's built by Figma. They're a design company. So I found that the designs that they create are really nice. The other thing that's really nice is it integrates really well with Figma. So you can take a Figma design and bring it into Figma Make, and then also take Figma Make designs and bring it into Figma. So they're two different platforms that they integrate really well together. And the last design agent here is Anima. Anima is also a prototyping agent. It does have the ability to add a backend, but I would say the best use case of it is creating designs that match your design style. It can even clone websites pixel for pixel if you put that into the chat. So those are some of the cool benefits of Anima. It also has the ability to import from Figma. So that is a feature that's really nice. You can just import a Figma design. So Anima is another design prototyping tool that you should be checking out in 2026. So if you watch this video, you now have a pretty good idea of the landscape, from all-in-one app builders to coding agents and IDEs to prototyping platforms like Anima and Figma Make. And I'd recommend trying out all these platforms for yourself, seeing which ones you like. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. If there's anything you think I should cover in a future video, I can make a follow-up with more tools that I potentially missed. And if you have any questions at all, let me know as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more free content like this, and we'll see you in the next video.